everyone, it's Brianne with my ABA mentor, and today I want to continue the discussion that I started yesterday about burnout. And after I did that video, I was like, wow, I really need to go a little bit deeper into why this is important, what does this mean for us. So make sure and like and subscribe to the channel because that helps me out, and especially if you like the content. So in respect to the burnout, and so my last video I talked about why burnout is such an important topic in our field, and why we need to be looking at the trauma-induced burnout, because that is really the core of what is going on with our staff and with us and what we are experiencing in such a high stress field. So to go a little bit deeper into this, we're going to do like a little mini nervous system breakdown, and then I'll talk about how this is applied and how I have seen this in myself and in people that I've worked with. So the first thing that you have to understand is that we have the central nervous system, and that is made up of the brain and the spinal cord. Okay, so we also have the peripheral nervous system, and that is all of the nerves that extend out from our spinal cord and go into our body, all the way to our fingers and all the way to our toes. All right, and the system that's responsible for trauma is the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system. And the sympathetic nervous system is our automatic flight or fight response. And the parasympathetic nervous system really is what brings that response down to a level of like a rest and digest. And so you have this constant balance between the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system pretty much all throughout your life and every day, all day. And there's a part of the brain called the amygdala, and it's just a tiny little spot in your brain, and it is where your emotions are controlled out of, and memory. It is part of the limbic system, but it also is pretty much the structure that's responsible for the sympathetic nervous system, which is your fight or flight. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the fight or flight process. And what you have to understand about this is, well, one, the name is incorrect. So it's traditionally known as fight or flight, but there's actually a third trauma response. And you can think of it as like if you had neutral in the middle, you have your sympathetic nervous system that goes up and your sympathetic nervous system that actually goes down. And the fight or flight response is really stems from like, okay, there is an aggressor and there's a tiger in the room. This is kind of the scenario that you always get when you start learning about this, is there's a tiger in the room and you are terrified and you have to decide in that moment, am I going to fight this tiger or am I going to run? Okay, so that's where fight or flight comes from, and it's the body's automatic response to a threat that is being presented to us. And the body and the brain is designed to protect itself. And so whenever we perceive a threat, our nervous system starts going, what's going on? There's a potential dangerous situation here, and I need to be deciding what I'm going to do to basically save my life right now. And so when you're thinking about fight or flight, it is a heightened nervous system response. And so your nervous system goes, ah, oh my gosh, there's a danger, I have to fight this thing off or I have to run away. Okay? And the third, less talked about traditionally, is the freeze response. And so it's actually fight, flight, or freeze. And freeze is a depression of your nervous system, where your nervous system literally like shut down the body. Like, this is so overwhelming, and I am beyond the point of being scared and beyond the point of wanting to fight this person or run. I'm just going to play dead. Okay, so this is the possum. You approach the possum and the possum decides, I am better off just pretending like I'm dead than trying to fight off this aggressor. Okay, so those are the three responses that the sympathetic nervous system has. And once you are through the cycle of that process, the fight, flight, or freeze, that is when your parasympathetic nervous system kicks in and it says, okay, the threat is over. We're going to return to baseline. Okay, we're going to return to normal. Our breathing is regulated. We're not sweating anymore. We're not feeling like we're going to jump out of our skin. We're just going back down. All right, so the trauma that occurs is when our sympathetic nervous system spends too long either in fight, flight, or freeze and cannot return back to its baseline point. And so when you're in a situation where you are constantly in a state of threat, and that can come from lots of different scenarios, even in our own field. I'm going to tell you a story about staff that experienced burnout but wasn't experiencing burnout from the kids, which this can play out in so many different ways, and we really need to be mindful and understanding of what's going on so that we can best support our staff. But so what's happening is it's staying in this heightened state, and it's like, up, and then it stays there. And the body is not designed to do that. The body is designed to have homeostasis. So if you think back into, biology, your body's always seeking for a way to be in homeostasis, and it doesn't like to be imbalanced. And experiencing repeated levels of trauma moves the body out of a state of balance, and now you are moving into burnout. And that is when burnout is occurring. And so to fix this, there are several things that you can do, but the first thing is you have to recognize what is happening. And there is, when you start studying the trauma, and you start studying the neuroscience behind it, there's a relatively common story that you might hear about a frog. And the frog, if you have a pot of boiling water, and the water is actively boiling, it's super, super, super hot, and you throw the frog into the water, the frog, its system turns on and it jumps out of the water. Okay, like you can't kill the frog by throwing it into boiling water. Now, if you put the frog into a pot of regular, like tap water, like regular, like room temperature water, and you slowly turn the heat up, you turn the heat up, and all the way to boiling, and you have this slow, gradual increase in heat, the frog will actually die, and you will boil the frog alive. And that is essentially the analogy of being slowly in a state of trauma, and your nervous system doesn't recognize small increases of the stress response until it is so boiling that you literally die. And it's eating away at your body, it's your mental health, all these things. And when you are constantly in that state of stress, your body literally starts to break down. And I tell you this from experience, your skin starts to break out, you start losing hair. It'll be like in the shower and be like, oh my gosh, I'm losing like clumps of hair right now, because your body cannot recover from the stress that it is experiencing. Okay, so that is our really not so brief, but brief, super brief introduction into what the nervous system does, how it operates, and this trauma response. Now, how does that trauma response relate to ourselves and our staff? Well, if you just think about it off the top of your head, what are our RBTs and our BTs experiencing when they go in to work with high aggressive maladaptive behaviors? They are experiencing an aggressor, like literally an aggressor, and they are responding consistently to this aggressor here. Okay, so if this is the tiger and you're going into session, I am willingly going into the session with the tiger who can pull my hair out, who can bite me, who can, punch me in the face at any given moment. That sounds like a recipe for a flight or fight or freeze response. And so giving people the tools and understanding the tools of how to regulate your nervous system, which is really how you prevent burnout, is you have to practice regulating your nervous system. And I'm going to tell you, this is not easy, okay? And this is something that takes consistent practice, and it's a process. So first, you have to understand what's happening. You have to understand why it's happening, and then you have to recognize it happening in your own body. And when you're talking about an automatic response, oh my gosh, it is so difficult in the beginning. It's difficult to recognize your own things that are happening inside your body because your brain just fires. And when you are pairing that with all of us humans who have experienced enough trauma in our lives, then it becomes even more difficult to recognize the trauma that's occurring. So I want to use an example of a staff that I have worked with, and how this individual, how I saw the trauma play out in this individual, and how we worked on improving that for her. And not a common story, but maybe, if out there with your teams, because what was happening is this person was getting really burnt out as an RBT, but it actually wasn't the kids that she was experiencing burnout from. She was part of a very small, close-knit group of RBTs who worked at a center, and she was actually experiencing her trauma response from the other team members who were in the environment. And not only that, but she was also experiencing a trauma response from me as the director, because she had repeated experiences with leaders of organizations that she has been with, who basically blamed her for all of the challenges that she was going through in the organization. And she was literally afraid to talk to leadership. And because she just found that she doesn't want to get yelled at, she doesn't want to be blamed for things that wasn't her, and she had built this trauma response of, like, every time that I want to approach my the leadership in my organization, I'm terrified. I immediately go into this trauma state of fight, flight, or freeze, and I can't go there. And so what we did was we were working on retraining her sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system to be able to allow her nervous system to relax and to unlearn the trauma that she had experienced. And I'm telling you, this is so powerful. It literally changes people's lives and changes their existence. Because once you learn how to do it, you can apply this skill to literally any area of your life. and any way that you want. And the way that you work on that is through what's called like somatic exercises, and you are literally connecting your body to what your nervous system is saying. And you do that through various ways that you can do through breathing, through meditative practices. There's all kinds of different ways to do this, and it's really just about finding the way to do it that works for an individual, and building that into a team and into individual skills for our team is really like one of the most powerful things that we can do as professionals. And so that is my follow-up to the intro yesterday. I hope that this helps give you another perspective on how we can work through burnout and burnout prevention. I do talk about this in all of our mentees that we work with, and how they can incorporate these practices. And especially if you are looking for a mentor, if you're looking for fieldwork hours, please check out our website. There's a link in the description, and see you on the next video.